Hey everybody, and welcome to Inside Quest. We're the MMO battle arena for your brain. Our goal is to bring on amazing people who can help you one-up your mind. And if you're looking to level up your intellect, there is no better guest than the man joining us today. He's a wildly successful tech entrepreneur who has made a career out of seeing opportunity where others see only imminent demise. He is far more than a detached oracle, however, as he's proven by getting his hands dirty building and running a string of unprecedented successes. He started his first business in his dorm room, before that was a thing, and managed to build a company so ingenious that it caught the eye of an Apple II-era Steve Jobs. With the encouragement of his early mentor, Steve Wynn, however, he ultimately decided not to sell to Apple, and so began the incredible journey of the man who would ultimately revolutionize the video game industry. Predicting the coming 3D revolution, this visionary bought Activision as it was teetering on bankruptcy and then helped turn it into the $14 billion juggernaut that it is today. Along the way, creating a string of smash hits, including Tony Hawk Pro Skater, Guitar Hero, and World of Warcraft and Call of Duty, two of the most successful game franchises of all time. For his next magic trick, he once again predicted the future of gaming and, realizing that it was headed online, purchased the Acclaim name after it went defunct, breathing life back into the brand and ultimately selling it to Disney. Not one to sit back and simply enjoy the fruits of his labors, however, he's on a mission once again, this time helping future entrepreneurs achieve their goals through his latest company, StartEngine, a revolutionary crowdfunding platform that allows the average consumer to receive equity in exchange for their investment. Since founding the company in 2011, this unique accelerator has successfully invested in 60 startups, connected over 250 mentors with early stage companies, and raised millions of dollars for some of the most exciting companies in technology. Please help me in welcoming the titan of industry hell-bent to dominate the mobile esports industry, beat Silicon Valley at its own game, and make LA the global hub of tech innovation. The Los Angeles native by way of Paris, France, Howard Marks. Welcome to the show. So good to have you. So I have to acknowledge that I owe you a debt of gratitude. You introduced me to the song A Boy Named Sue by Johnny Cash. I was reading one of your blog articles. I'd heard about it 1,000 times, but never actually taken the time to listen to it. And you quoted one of the lines from the song, and I thought, okay, I have to go listen to this. Why did that song impact you so much?
Well, I always try to write articles about entrepreneurship, and I want to bring some culture to what I write. And you'll notice in some of my articles, I talk about the French Revolution, I talk about songs from Johnny Cash, and that adds a little bit of spice, a little bit more interest in something that is exciting to me, which is entrepreneurship, but sometimes not as colorful as it could be.
Right. One of the things that I found so cool about that song is the notion of you've got to be tough, right? That he ends up realizing that his father actually gave him a gift by naming him Sue because it made him toughen up. And it's, for those of you who haven't heard the songs, it's in true country and Western fashion, like when my mom used to force me to listen to it. It's all storytelling, right? So it walks you on the story of this boy named Sue and how he ends up confronting his father only to realize that his father gave him this name to toughen him up. And you said you think that that's something that as an entrepreneur people have to be is tough. What does it mean to be tough in a business setting?
Well, I have an opinion about this, that many entrepreneurs quit. And the only way you can fail at anything you do is when you quit. When you decide that either you ran out of money, or you're not in love with your idea anymore, or it's too hard, you quit. And that's a fail, right? And to me, that's the dark side of entrepreneurship. On the bright side, the idea that you would have the resilience to continue, I call it grit. It's the intersection of resilience and passion. And when you bring those two together, you can continue. Don't lose your passion and do not lose resilience. Because if you do, the likelihood that you will fail is much greater.
Do you think, so the intersection of resilience and passion is pretty interesting, and I've never actually put it together in my head right at that intersection, and grit is something that's hugely important. We talk a lot about it here at Quest. Do you think that's something that you can train yourself to be either more resilient or to find a deeper passion?
I think you can. I think, first of all, passion is not something you can really manufacture. You have it on your job or on your hobby or whatever you pursue in life, you have it or you don't. I mean, I don't think you can invent passion, but resilience you can. Resilience is getting the right mentor, having faith, seeing other role models, and really believing in yourself. So there's a little bit of the feeling that your self-esteem is preserved, even though you're on a cliff. And you know, as an entrepreneur, you're on a cliff more than once.
Yes.
And it's daunting.
Yeah.
You look down, doesn't look great. Those who succeed can find the strength when things are all looking as bad as they can, and find their strengths to recover and actually, on the opposite side, thrive and grow bigger. And I think that's the test. I think we're all tested constantly. I've been tested in my life several times, and I come out of it hopefully stronger, but certainly more determined.
Do you have a story of a time where you've been tested?
Oh yeah. You were talking about running a company in college. That was not so easy. We, at one point, I was still in college, but I was full-time working in my company. It was a software company, and we were going so bad that we couldn't pay ourselves anymore. So when you can't pay yourself anymore, you go to the unemployment line. So you have to go to a place where it's a government facility, and you wait in line, and it's very humbling. And you collect a few $100s. I mean, it's not that much.
Oh, I've been on unemployment.
And they interview you, right? They interview you. What do you know how to do? And I think that you think you hit rock bottom when you're there, and you can't fall off the floor. So you just strengthen yourself up, and you say, you know what? There is a better way, and there always is. And you just do it. And in our case, we just realized that our software product was not going to succeed, and we needed to pivot. And we pivoted from the Apple II market, which was in the early 1980s, a very successful computer, to another one, which was built by a company called Commodore at that time. And that changed our outcome, where we went from one to the other, made some money, and then finally fell into Activision. So let me tell you the story. If we quit at that time when we had no money, there was no Activision. It would have never existed, because they would have gone bankrupt. We would have not recovered them, and who knows what. Now it's the #1 video game company in the world. It has a $35 billion market cap. So it went up since you researched my article. But I have to tell you, it's an insane number, an insane company. I don't know if this will ever happen to me again, but I'm on a new mission that I believe has the potential.
Talk to me about mission. That's interesting. You've written really well about this, and as somebody that has an accelerator and you have all these companies in, what is it about a mission that makes it so potent for an entrepreneur just starting out?
Well, I always ask people, entrepreneurs, when I meet them, what is your mission? And they will say, my company manufactures widgets and sells them into stores.
Right.
And I said, that's not a mission. They look at me a little perplexed. I said, well, what do you think is Facebook's mission? And they will probably reply, connecting people around the world. That's their mission. It's a big mission, by the way. It's a great mission. It's not really describing what Facebook does, but it's a mission. So I always spend time with them the first half hour talking about the mission, and I want to see if they have something in them that really is a mission, or if they're doing it just for the money, or they're doing it just for a pastime, a job. I can see right away. And that's my first piece of advice to them. It's like, okay, look, if you're not going to find a mission, it's just not worth it, dude. You're going to be working too hard. You're going to be suffering.
Right. So why haven't you retired to a beach somewhere? Do you have a mission right now?
My new mission is to help entrepreneurs achieve their dreams. And I made a decision on that about 3-4 years ago, when I invested in all these companies, the 60 companies you mentioned, and I realized how hard it was for them to raise capital. And unless you are of the right color, right demographic, right geography, you're not going to raise that much money. And I think that's not democratic. I think it's biased. Especially women who lead businesses get less than 5% of venture capital money, and people of color get less than 1%. And I just don't find it democratic. And I don't think the people who hold the money, the venture capitalists or the angel investors, are necessarily good at picking, because as you may know, most of them don't make money.
Right.
And the Jobs Act came out, and Obama signed it in April 2012, and I read it. And I went back and talked to my wife about it, and I said, you know what? This is going to change our country. Because for the first time in 80 years, since 1933, after the Depression, the general consumer is going to be able to invest in the things they care about most. And as you know, millennials have deep, deep interest in causes, such as global warming, as an example. And this Jobs Act, I saw it as the beginning of a new opportunity of entrepreneurship for our country. And I want to be there. And so my mission is to help these people.
All right, so let's talk about, because I feel like there's a huge disconnect for people who have a consumer mindset. So let's say just your average millennial, your average anybody really in a generation, they don't understand investing. So we were talking off camera about the Jobs Act, and there were details of it that I had no idea. I'm very familiar with StartEngine and what you're doing, and I understand the principle, but not understanding all of the ramifications of the Jobs Act, it's even more powerful than I thought. But as I sit here, I start thinking about how people will empower themselves to be good at that, right? Versus it becoming essentially another Kickstarter model where they're investing because they want that product, right? They don't necessarily see a business in it. They've got no, they may not even be doing it from what they want to see come true in the world. It's just, oh, hey, that sounds cool, and I'm going to invest in my money. So I know you're working very hard, and we'll talk more about this in a minute, very hard to make sure that the companies are worth investing in. But how can the average consumer, what do they need to understand to become better at investing?
I think that the consumer has been told that they have to let professionals do it for them. And by and large, that's the case. If you have a blue-collar worker who works at Ford for their career, their money is going to be managed by professionals, pension funds.
Sure.
And those pension funds will invest the money in other funds, who will invest the money in other funds, who will pay money to brokers, and who will pay money to analysts and traders. And the layers keep piling on. Yep. And that worker is going to barely get the returns they need for the pension to work for the next generation. It is an absurdity. However, it's the reality of our world. And now that the consumer can take a portion of their savings and say, you know what, not only I'm going to invest it to make money, hopefully, but I'm going to invest it in things that I care about. Why does it have to be always the same few, wealthy investors who get to participate? However, teaching investing is difficult, because I think that reading financials is just too difficult. I think what's easier is to look at an idea and look at a CEO and say, I believe in it. I think that this person is going to do it. And I have to tell you, my mentors and my investors, when I started my career, that's all they saw in me. It was not the financials. And it couldn't be.
And Steve Wynn was one of your earliest investors, right?
He gave us $50,000 in 1982 when we were in college.
And what do you think he saw? It was you and your partner, right?
My partner, Bobby, the three of us, we became equal partners.
What do you think he saw in you three?
Well, I asked him that question because I said, look, we're college students. It doesn't make any sense. If you're going to go invest money, you're going to invest money, especially at that time, in a matured management team. And he said that when he was young, he had a mentor who was a banker who helped him out. And one of the conditions of it was that when he becomes successful, he does the same to others. So we were the pay forward guys.
Wow, that's really cool. And assuming that he didn't select you guys at random, that he saw hundreds, possibly thousands of people in a similar situation, what do you think it was that he responded to in the three of you that he didn't see in other people?
I don't think he did a lot of other deals.
So right place, right time.
I think so. I think that my partner met him at a business dinner, actually a charity dinner, and he told him about the fact that we wanted to make software simple to use on machines. And at that point, machines were complicated. You had keyboards and screens and everything was text. And we kind of invented the Mac before the Mac, with the Windows, the mouse. It was a great idea, except we put it on the wrong machine, which is the Apple II, and that died when the Mac came out.
Right.
We didn't know about strategy. We didn't know about product development. We didn't understand all these things. But he said something fundamental. He says, look, you're here to build a business. You're not here to sell out. You're here to build a business on the long term. And we went with that. And so we kind of failed, and then we recovered, and then we kind of failed again and recovered. And then one day, the opportunity to invest in Activision, a defunct company that was going bankrupt, we paid $400,000 for 1/3 of the company. And no one wanted it. The company was being delisted. We had to take it bankrupt in September of I think October 1991. And that was not easy. We put all our money in it. Everything we had was invested in that deal. So we went all in.
I love that story. It's really incredible. To encapsulate, he's written a lot about this. You can see other interviews where he talks about it, but to bring it all together really fast, it seems absurd from the outside. You look at this company, it's totally failing. Hey, they're being sued left, right, and center. Every day is another bundle of bad news. And you guys realize if we buy it and take it bankrupt, we might be able to sell it. What gave you the cojones to say, yeah, that's where I'm putting all my money?
I have to be honest with you, we had no idea what we were doing.
Okay, respect. So how'd you pull it off?
Well, my partner's dad was an attorney, and he gave us the right advice. So we had his law firm help us through this monumental mess. We had to prepare the bankruptcy ahead of time. We have to talk to all of the debt holders, the employees. We had to fire most of the people. It was ugly. But you know what? We believed firmly that games will go from cartridges, which was the little device you put in the Atari machine, to CD-ROM, DVDs, the disc format. We really believed it's going to happen.
So walk us through, did you have a mission that you could state at the time?
I don't think we did. I think our mission really was to make money. And, but we didn't want to make money doing real estate. We wanted to make money in technology, in interactive entertainment. We were passionate about it. We loved the medium. We loved the idea that one day your worlds are going to come alive on your TV set with amazing graphics. And we knew that was coming. So I think our mission was not clear at the beginning. But what was clear is we were determined to succeed.
Now, you've said that while building a company is an art, there is a science to management. How, as super young guys, were you able, so a little bit more of the backstory, when they buy Activision, take it bankrupt, all that, it had 250 employees, right?
Yeah.
So first you scale it down to 10 people.
Yes.
Then you move them to a foreign city to start everything all over again. The number of things that you would have to get right to then turn that into a $38 billion company ultimately is so staggering, without a mission, but just a bunch of raw passion. So what is the management science that you guys were using to build that? Were you learning it as you went along? Did you have a few key pieces of information that somebody gave you? Like, how did you start getting the successes that you would need to build on that?
The one decision we made that I think was critical, that made the whole difference, was that we watched what Microsoft was doing at that time. Bill Gates was building a mega business. And their philosophy about hiring people was only hire the best, smartest, brightest people, period. End of story. That's easier said than done, by the way, as every business owner knows.
I can attest to that, yeah.
So when we came to LA, no one would want to work for us. Why? Bankrupt company.
Sure.
So you know what we did? We went in and found bright kids, just recent grads from the top colleges in this country, who were passionate about this game but knew nothing about games. So they wanted to learn. They were eager to be in the industry, and it worked.
It's so incredible. I want to belabor the point for a second, because the people watching this show, they fall into the two categories you talk about with fear. He's got great ideas in fear, basically, that you can either be propelled forward because you're afraid of failing and you don't want to fail, and that fear of avoiding, or the need to avoid that failure, propels you forward, or you're just afraid to start, right? And I think that people really do fall into those two camps. But that notion of, if you've got a mission, you're not going to quit, right? You're going to keep going. You're going to keep driving forward. You understand that people, that if they believe in what they're doing, that they will grind it out. And that's the thing, right? That's the juice. That's what you guys need to explore. And it doesn't matter if you're going to express it as somebody in a company, or you're going to express it as somebody starting your own company. It's totally irrelevant. But if you really are listening to what he's saying, and you're thinking about how he was watching Microsoft, right? And saying, okay, here are these people that have been incredibly successful, but I need to codify what they're doing because I don't yet have those lessons. And look at the 25 bullet points that I wrote for Quest as a company. That was almost 10 years of me doing the same thing, right? I have to codify this. I need to come to understand what people are successful, what they're doing, what I need to do in order to become successful, so that I can act in accordance with that, so that it's not haphazard, so that I can begin to build in that science that you're talking about of creating success very intentionally out of essentially nothing. And I'd love to get your opinion in a second on how people find that passion. But once you have it, to put it at the center of your life, to let it be the driving force, the very reason that works is because, as he was saying, shit's gonna get hard, right? So it's the only promise that I'll ever make anybody is, I know at some point it will be hard. I hope it'll be easy and fun, but I can't promise that. I can promise it'll be hard. And at that moment, if you've got that passion, that if you've got something that you believe in, enough, you're willing to build it brick by brick and ensure that it comes into the world through your own two hands, if that's how it must be, then you won't stop. Then you won't quit, right? Which goes back to one of, I think, the things that you look for in StartEngine. You get like 1,000 people that apply every year and you only take 20?
Well, barely 20. It's harder to get into StartEngine than in Stanford.
Not bad. Not bad.
But I'm not proud of that.
Why not?
Because I wanted to help everybody. I want to help women who believe they can be entrepreneurs. I want to help people of color. I want to help younger, older entrepreneurs. I want to help everybody achieve the dream. And you know why? I think that if you have to look at our country today. 70% of all new jobs are created by companies like yours and like mine, the small businesses. The large businesses are not a gain in jobs. They're a net, I'd say, called the net zero of employment. You lose some, you gain some in the Fortune 500. But in small businesses, it's 70% of the job creation. And yet, about 50,000 new businesses are created every month in this country.
Whoa.
It's a big number. And they need capital. Imagine a country where access to capital is democratized, and you don't have to be in Silicon Valley to raise money. You can be anywhere and raise capital because you have people who believe in you, you have fans, you have users, you have customers who want to invest in your future. That's phenomenal. And that, to me, is really where I want to be. That's where, because I believe I can help thousands of people get to where they need to go and complete their mission.
It's incredible. Other than fear, what do you think is going to stop everybody from taking advantage of what you're creating?
I have a lot of conversations with women-led companies, and they are fearful of joining the platform because it's new. It's not something they're used to. I think they are also a little bit insecure by the fact that if you get a VC, if you can, that's not easy. They are your advice, your piece of advice. And I keep telling them, look, you don't need a VC to get advice. You can get a mentor. That's actually the right way to do it because they don't have an agenda. They're not kingmaker or not. I mean, I read your article about when you heard about what Harvard's talking about, if you want to be king or you want to be rich. And I think I have the same feeling as you. What do you think? Do you want to be king or rich?
Neither of those resonate with me, if I'm honest. If we translate king to be a leader, that's far more interesting to me. And I have a very specific definition of a leader. To me, a leader is somebody who creates other leaders. As an entrepreneur, as you build your company, you've essentially got one of two choices. Build it forever, but never have any money because you're essentially reinvesting it into your business, or not grow so that you can take some capital out of the business and it becomes what they call a lifestyle business, which doesn't really have the trajectory. But if you want to build a big company with high growth, you basically bring on a VC investor who can help float the capital to sustain that growth, but they're going to put a time gun to your head and say you're going to have to sell in 3 to 7 years if they're really generous. And so you build this thing only to have it taken by somebody else, and because they don't have the passion of the founder, they probably won't be able to make something with the company, right? So that is your dilemma. Like, as somebody who wants to do something, like, I want to build one of the biggest companies on the face of the planet because I have a mission and I have to build one of the biggest companies on the planet in order to end metabolic disease, right? It's just a fact of what I'm trying to accomplish. So now I'm stuck because I don't want somebody to give me the capital to float the growth and force me to sell the company, because I don't think that they have the fortitude, quite frankly, to see it through. I think to make the hard choices, to do the research, to really exist at the cutting edge, you've just got to have that passion, that's something inside of you. Like, I'm thinking of my family every day as I come in to do battle. And without that, you're not going to do it. So how do you overcome that and create something new? So to me, to answer your question about rich or a king, I want to be a leader. I want to show people, hey, you can build something great, grand, that really is tackling this massive problem, but you need resources to pull it off. So I think, is a little bit of a false dichotomy. I don't have some of the compunctions that people have about wealth creation. To me, wealth is a great facilitator, and if you don't have access to it, you're forever coming to the world with your hand out. So I'll put it back to you. How do you think that crowdfunding is going to, I think, utterly obliterate the distinction between a king and wealth?
When I was at Harvard and I heard the professor talk about this, I thought to myself that this is part of the reason why I have this mission, because I want to break down those myths, and I want to break down these realizations that you have to make a choice. No, you do not have to make a choice. And making a choice may not be in your best interest, right? As you described it. You know, being rich and being unhappy because your idea went away, or being the king and poor. I mean, come on. Right. That's not right. So how do we solve it? Because our equity crowdfunding allows even founders to put their companies on our platform and say, I want to raise 10 million, but I'll take 3 off the table with my shares. Here are the terms. I'm comfortable with those terms, and get, let's say, 3,000, 4,000 people to put in, on the average, let's say $3,000. That's fantastic, because not only you get the capital you need to build your business, you get some money off the table so that you can have a lifestyle, but you also have these 3,000 fans who are now going to be your brand ambassadors. You anoint them, so you're king, you make them brand ambassadors, right? And you say, you're going to help me build the business. You're going to go in your communities and talk about my product.
You know, it's interesting. So the very first night we met, you pitched this idea, and you were talking about the Jobs Act. I hadn't heard of it before, and I had looked at Kickstarter and thought the same thing that I'm sure a lot of people think, which is, okay, it would be cool to have, you know, the product early, and if I really believe in it, that's nice, but I want equity, right? Like, I want to really take a gamble and go on this ride with them. And personally speaking, I'm in a unique position in that I have a voice that has some weight behind it, and I've got some business savvy where I could advise, but I want to get equity out of it. And so I've never done Kickstarter because I thought, it's just kind of throwing money into a void without really being able to amplify it with my talent. So when you were pitching the idea, I thought, wow, this is like exactly what, as an investor, I've been looking for. So even from that perspective of wanting to help people, you're not just helping the people that are building the companies, which is obviously incredibly powerful, especially if they do something that is socially impactful, but you're helping people that, so take the notion of Uber model or Airbnb where you've got excess capacity, right? Like I have excess knowledge that I have used already. I'm getting use out of it every day, but it sort of stops there. And this show is sort of my attempt to, hey, anybody that wants to use this advice, like it's really effective, you should try it. But without putting it into something really specific, which would be incredibly powerful. Is that something you think about? Is that one of the drivers, or is it just sort of a secondary benefit?
I think it's an extraordinary benefit to offer the general public a means to participate in the wealth creation of an entrepreneur. What's wrong with that? This is exactly what our country was founded on. I get really frustrated because VCs, financial professionals, they try to say that what I'm trying to do is bad because the general public does not know what they're doing. They are dumb. I disagree. I think if anything, they're dumb giving their money to professionals for the kind of fees they're charging. I think that's really a problem. But that's the reality of the market. The financial industry is a very wealthy industry. They make a ton of money. I mean, you and I are entrepreneurs. We know what our margins are. They are bigger margins than we are. So I decided when I started the equity crowdfunding, the first principle I said is, we're going to be 70% less than anybody. If I can be 90%, I'll do it, but maybe I can't. But 70% less, done. We're not going to impose on anyone our views. We're going to let them decide what they want to offer to their shareholders. We will let them make all the decisions. And yes, you could argue, well, where is the control feature? You know what the control feature is called? The wisdom of the crowd. If the crowd's wisdom, like in Bilyeu Motors, which is Paul Ilio's company, the 6,600 people decided that this is a great idea. And I believe in the future, 5-10 years from now, not only we're not going to be an alternative investment platform, we're going to be the mainstream. Not only us, but all the crowdfunding platforms. We're going to be the mainstream in raising capital for companies. But not only that, it's possible that the wisdom of the crowd is a better wisdom than the investor, professional investor. It's possible that that's the case.
Yeah, especially if you take into consideration the self-fulfilling prophecy, right? The more people, those 6,600 or whatever people that invested in Bilyeu Motors, they become brand ambassadors. They feel like they've got some ownership. They're going to go out there. They're going to talk about it. It will almost by definition have a better chance of being successful when 6,600 people have invested in it than when one VC group invests in it, right? Because there's just that many more people already talking about it and breathing life into it. That's pretty interesting. Tell me why you like the naysayers. You said, I like the naysayers.
Because they motivate me. They give me a chance to reflect on myself, and they are there all the time. I'll give you the naysayers I told you about Activision. I mean, everybody gave us the advice, this is the worst idea you could ever do. Do not do it. All right. The naysayers this time around, and I'm 53, so I've been around the block. So give me some credit? No, they're not giving me any credit. So I said, okay, so what's the problem? I said, Howard, the SEC will never approve this rule. Yeah, I know it was voted in Congress, bipartisan vote, signed by Obama. They will never do it. Why? Because they will never want to have their name on a rule that allows consumers to invest in private, illiquid investments. I said, what do you mean never? No, Howard, it's not going to happen. So, I already invested in it, already built my platform. I was waiting. I was waiting nearly 9 months. And I reflected on it, and I said, you know what? I disagree. Made me even more passionate about it. It launched. Comes June 19th, we get a few $1 million in Bilyeu Motors as reservations, and then the naysayers come to me and say, Howard, you're lucky if 10% of that will become an investment. Again, they were wrong. And you know what? It amuses me because it's possible that passion investment, like these 6,600 people, could actually be an asset and not a liability. And they're not only not going to sue the company, but they're going to help them, and they're going to have town hall meetings in their communities talking about the car.
Right.
So instead of looking at the negative, which the naysayers always look at it, Let's look at the positives. Is this a great opportunity? And to finally close on it, I believe that investing doesn't need to be blind. It can be entertaining, and it can be fulfilling, it can be valuable.
That's interesting. You really seem to understand humans, human motivation, psychology. Is that something that you've intentionally studied, or do you just have a natural feel for it?
I have not thought about it, frankly, Tom. I think I'm wrong on many things. I really believe it. I think my value add in the end of the day is I get to see things like the Jobs Act and understand what it could be and figure out how to get there.
Yeah.
But along the way, I make a lot of mistakes. I try to use some psychology to improve the odds, but I make plenty of mistakes.
And I love you the more for it. It's so cool. I mean, your success is so well documented, incredible, over multiple companies. And to be able to look in the face of that and meet it with humility, I think is why you'll continue to be successful. And what I love about the coming revolution that you are going to bring all by yourself if you have to, is it's one more excuse removed from people. And one of the things that I see hold incredible human beings back, incredible people that I really think could do something special, and they end up not doing anything. And the reason they don't do anything is because they stop at excuses. Now, I will be the first to admit, as a personality trait, if you're going to remove anything from your life, remove making excuses, because that will be the first step towards really becoming successful. But the most terrifying thing about excuses is they're usually pretty legitimate. And if you don't have access to capital, if you're a woman, or God forbid, a woman of color who really now, just statistically, your access to resources is absurd. If you can now have that moved, it's another powerful mind that for whatever stupid reason before didn't have access to something now does. So that's one more obstacle moved out of the way. And my passionate plea to anybody watching the show is that you understand, not only do you look forward, which is what this man has done so incredibly successfully in his career, being able to prognosticate where something is going, but that you understand that it's truly, your dream is being democratized. Your ability to access people and to do the thing you want to do, you don't need anyone's permission. You don't need your college permission. You don't even need to go to college. You don't need your parents' permission, not your friends. Nobody. So whatever bullshit story you're telling yourself about why your business isn't successful, hopefully this is one more thing that will peel back the veil of truth and reveal the only thing holding you back is you. And whether that's because you're afraid because you think you might fail, or whether you're going to allow yourself to be driven by failure, like, that choice is yours. But it is truly, it's democratized. And when I think about what's allowed us to be successful here at Quest, it's not only the belief, right? The mission, knowing what I wanted to do and what I was willing to fight for, but we had spent so long amassing our own money that we didn't have to come with our hands out. We had other companies that were successful enough that we at least had a little bit of capital to start this, so we didn't have to raise funds or anything. But if this had existed, I would, oh my God, put out a video and say, we're going to end metabolic disease, right? How many people would that touch? And say, look, you know somebody right now who's going to die too soon because of the way they eat. Yes, no, yes, right? It's like cancer. Virtually everybody has somebody that's been touched like that. This platform is going to make it so that whether it's you're trying to get somebody to work for the cost of a bus ticket but now in their own car, or whether you're trying to end metabolic disease, like, everyone gets to vote with their dollars, but you get rewarded now. The day I'm going to be over the fucking moon is when the first millionaire is made off this platform. That would be breathtaking. And then to see what that person does.
And that will change society. And I like your no more excuses.
Sure.
No more excuses. Everybody's welcome. Everybody's able to raise capital. As you said, it removes all the barriers. And I would love to share your belief that we'll have millionaires, investors who are made from our platform. I would love to have one day a mega hit like an Uber on our platform, because it would define exactly what we set to do,
right,
which is democratization of capital and helping the general public enrich themselves and pursue happiness.
Right. That's so well said. So the reason that I brought up earlier the why haven't you retired to an island, you wrote a pretty cool article about every entrepreneur has a choice to whether, if you're successful, you wake up one day and realize I don't ever have to go to work again, right? I can retire to an island. You said a lot of them do. They retire to an island, you never hear from them again. But somebody like you just keep coming back, thing after thing. You got this mission, some burning desire. You want to do something, pay it forward, maybe in your case. But what will be so fascinating for me and what I hope gets you guys excited and what I hope gets you going on StartEngine and looking at what they're doing and what opportunities there are is to find out what would happen to you, right? What would happen to you if you got rich? Because the thing that I can promise you, you get there and it is not what you think. It's better than you think. It's just totally different. Because now you realize I can be an engine for change because nothing is holding me back. Nothing is holding me back. I have the fuel that I need to go facilitate change. The mission, as I have stated it beyond Quest, for me is to end generational poverty. You're really making me rethink that because that's actually just the first step to what I'm trying to do, which is get people out of the matrix. And I feel that people have a limiting mindset and it stops them from doing something great. And I can't think of a more powerful story to give to the world than to say this person believed in this product and this entrepreneur. They invested whatever 5% of their wages working in a mailroom and it ended up blowing up. They helped, by the way. They were spreading the word. They were going to the town hall meetings that you're talking about and really pushing it forward. But where it gets interesting is where that person becomes wealthy and then what do they do? Because they didn't win the lottery. They helped build something. And when you help build something, you look at that reward so differently and you realize, holy shit, like this has touched my life so profoundly. Now whose life can I touch with it? If we can pull that off, like if that's where this goes, then it gets really fucking cool. Really cool, really fast.
I think that 5 to 10 years from now, maybe we won't be at the level of coolness that you just described, but we will be there. I believe that in order to help our middle class in this country that is shrinking and is becoming disaffected, and you can see that in the elections, to help them, give them either the ability to achieve their dream as an entrepreneur, or give them the ability to be part of that journey and hopefully enrich themselves. And like you said, 5%, 3% of what they make, we're not talking about all in.
Right.
I'm reckless, I do that. But most people shouldn't.
Yeah.
Just put 2 or 3%. And you know what? The journey is the reward, Tom. It's not just enriching yourself. We're in a society here, it's part of a social movement. And I think Kickstarter, to their credit, really showed that there is a social movement. So Kickstarter is great for projects that are either charitable or art-oriented. But when you talk about business, companies, enterprise, this has its own place as well. These are founders who have missions, who have visions, who have passion, who have the desire, and you have people who want to participate. And for the last 80 years, our rules forbid that to happen. It was just a no. Unless you're wealthy, an accredited investor, someone who has wealth and experience, you can't invest. Right. Your neighbor starts Apple or Uber, you're out. You're not investing. I thought that was just not the right rule. And that change, by the way, I didn't know that was happening, that change. But when it happened, I read about it, I saw it, and I did something about it.
Yeah, you did something about it. It's incredibly powerful. Howard, thank you so much for coming on today, man. What a pleasure it's been to spend time with you.
Enjoy it, Tom.
Guys, this has been a tectonic shift in my life. I'm always trying to bring people on the show that impact me, but even more than I saw coming in the research, actually sitting down, you've witnessed something fundamental shift in my personality. I hope that it had a similar effect on you. I hope that you guys will believe in yourself, and whatever it is that you're trying to make come true, realize that there's people like Howard out there fighting to create the platforms that you're going to need in order to make it a reality. So think about it right now. Right now, I know a lot of you are dreaming. You've got ideas. You write me. You ping me on Twitter. You're asking, how can I take my idea and make something of it? StartEngine could be that place. There are other places out there as well, but understand the only thing holding you back right now is you. If you believe in yourself, if you have a mission, if there's something you're really, really willing to pay the price for and to do the hard work to make it a reality, there is a whole world of people out there waiting for your idea. But you've got to go out and do something about it. Don't let the fear hold you back. That's a total fucking waste of your time, your talents, and the potential gift that you could give to the world. So figure out what it is that you're willing to fight to make come true. Leverage this man's brilliance and make it happen. Guys, until next week, I'll be recovering. Be legendary, my friends. Take care.